In a world where kindness is often seen as a virtue, could being too kind actually work against you? Imagine being kind, honest, and generous, only to find that it makes you vulnerable, exploited, or even ignored. This might sound contradictory, but it's what the great political philosopher Niccolò Machiavelli would warn us about in 2025. Machiavelli, in his famous work, The Prince, argued that sometimes the pursuit of kindness can lead to failure, particularly when it blinds us to the harsher realities of life. Today, we'll explore what Machiavelli would say about the paradox of kindness in our modern world. Can kindness be a weakness? And more importantly, how can we balance kindness with strength to thrive in today's society? Before we dive into the paradox of kindness, let's briefly touch on who Machiavelli was and why his ideas are still so influential today. Niccolò Machiavelli was an Italian diplomat, philosopher, and political strategist from the Renaissance period. His most famous work, The Prince, was a guide for rulers on how to maintain power, often advocating for pragmatism over idealism. Machiavelli believed that human nature is inherently selfish and that leaders must be prepared to act ruthlessly when necessary. His work is often misunderstood as promoting cruelty or deception, but in reality, Machiavelli was simply emphasizing the importance of being realistic in a world that's not always kind. He famously said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both," highlighting the idea that while kindness and love are important, they can leave you vulnerable if you don't balance them with strength and caution. Now let's talk about the paradox of kindness. In today's world, we're often encouraged to be kind, generous, and empathetic, which are undoubtedly positive qualities. However, there's a hidden danger in always being kind, especially if it's at the expense of your own well-being, or if others see it as weakness. Machiavelli's ideas remind us that kindness, when unbalanced by caution or assertiveness, can lead to exploitation. In The Prince, he writes that while it's important for a leader to be loved by the people, being overly lenient or too kind can make a ruler seem weak, which invites manipulation by others. The same principle applies in everyday life today, whether in the workplace, relationships, or personal boundaries. Kindness is not inherently bad, but if we fail to recognize when to say no, set boundaries, or stand up for ourselves, we risk being taken advantage of. The paradox is that while we think kindness will bring us closer to others or make us more respected, it can sometimes achieve the opposite if we're not careful. So, what would Machiavelli teach us about kindness in 2025? Here are 3 important lessons that we can apply to our modern lives. Balance kindness with assertiveness. Machiavelli would advise us to be kind, but not at the cost of our own power or dignity. He understood that in a competitive world, showing too much vulnerability can lead to exploitation. In 2025, this means setting clear boundaries in relationships, standing up for yourself in the workplace, and learning when to say no. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. It's easy to confuse kindness with weakness, but Machiavelli would argue that true strength comes from knowing when and how to be kind without letting others walk all over you. In The Prince, he makes it clear that a ruler should be kind when it's beneficial, but must also be ready to act decisively and even ruthlessly when necessary. In today's world, that might mean being empathetic toward others, but not letting their problems consume you or derail your own goals. Kindness must be strategic. Machiavelli believed that every action should be taken with purpose. Kindness is no exception. Instead of being kind out of fear of rejection or conflict, use kindness strategically. Be kind because it strengthens your relationships or creates a positive environment, but always keep your long-term goals in mind. In 2025, We live in a world dominated by social media, where kindness is often performative. We see people offering compliments, doing good deeds, and sharing their best selves online. But Machiavelli would urge us to question the motives behind this. Is it genuine kindness? Or is it a strategic move to gain popularity, likes, and followers? This isn't to say that all acts of kindness are insincere, but in a world where our every action is scrutinized and shared, it's important to be aware of how kindness can be used as a tool for influence. Machiavelli would remind us that in the political and social arenas, kindness often has a cost. Whether it's networking or maintaining a public image, being kind can sometimes be a calculated decision. On the flip side, Machiavelli might also point out that too much concern for public opinion can prevent us from acting boldly. If we're too focused on being liked or avoiding conflict, we may miss opportunities to assert ourselves or achieve our goals. In 2025, this means finding a balance between being kind and being assertive, especially in the public eye. So, where does this leave us in 2025? Machiavelli wouldn't suggest that we abandon kindness altogether. In fact, he would probably argue that kindness, when used strategically, is a form of power. Being kind helps us build trust, create alliances, and foster loyalty. However, we must always be aware of the fine line between kindness and vulnerability. By balancing kindness with assertiveness, being aware of others' intentions, and using kindness with purpose, we can navigate the modern world more effectively. Machiavelli's teachings remind us that in a world that's often harsh and competitive, kindness isn't weakness. It's a tool we can use to strengthen ourselves and our relationships, but only when applied wisely. Thank you for watching. And if you found value in today's exploration of Machiavelli's ideas, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights into philosophy, strategy, and life lessons for the modern world.